Back to our European football expert, Andy Brassel now, who was with us in the last hour. Andy, I want to talk Viktor Gyökeres. Lots of talk that the league in Portugal, not as strong as others. Is he the answer for Manchester United?
Well, I think you can say quite honestly that the league in Portugal is not as strong as the very best in Europe. However, I think, as Dean was saying before, the numbers are extraordinary. For club and country, 63 goals last season, a ton of assists as well. He scored them in the Champions League, as Manchester City can tell you. He scored them for his national team alongside Alexander Isak. And I think really, if we're looking at what he can do for Manchester United or any other team who want to sign him, it's the fact that he can adapt to so many situations. He can play up front on his own. He can play in that too with Isak. And really, I think the partnership that they've had for Sweden so far, even though it's just in the early stages, shows how good both of them are. For them to be able to adapt and play to two up front when they're both alphas, I think is really hard and deserves a lot of credit on both sides. Now, Gyokeres, we talked about how he could handle the physical side of the Premier League. That was never in doubt. Technically, he's developed so much. I think if we're looking for a reason why he might go to Manchester United, that reason is two words: Ruben Amorim. Amorim absolutely begged the board at Sporting to sign him. He wouldn't leave them alone until they did sign him, and they sanctioned a club record deal to get him on board. So there's clearly an enormous amount of trust between those. So if you can get over where United are sports-wise at the moment, I think it's very much still on the table. Now, he's someone who won't be bullied by defenders. He can hold it up. He can run the channels. He's good finishing it with in front of him. He scores all types of goals with both feet. And he's got enormous confidence. And if he was going to Manchester United, he would be playing for a coach who he knows has turned him into a superstar.
Yeah, looking at United in particular, clearly Ruben Amorim is a huge admirer of him. He's worked under Amorim before. He knows that formation. So for United, you're asking Dean the question, is he the answer? I mean, United have got a lot of work to do in all areas of the pitch, but if he wants to play in that formation and continue with that formation, and we've got no reason to believe that he won't because he's very stubborn in that formation, is Amorim, you would think that someone like Viktor Gyökeres would be absolutely perfect because he knows the manager and he knows that formation back to front. So it would be a fantastic signing if United can get it over the line. There was all this talk about he wanted to play Champions League football. Ruben Amorim was very, very pointed in one of his news conferences when he said, I only want players who want to play for Manchester United. It doesn't matter if we've got European football or not. If players are saying, I want to move to a Champions League club, I don't want that player to come to United. And I think he meant that regardless of whether United were in European football or not. He wanted them to come because it's Manchester United. So it'll be a test now of United's pull. But I just wonder whether the likes of Cunha and possibly Brian Mbeumo coming as well, whether that kind of signing can attract a player. I don't know if Dean's got a comment on that. When you see, if you're 50-50 about joining a club and then you see the kind of recruitment a club is making and you think, oh, right, they're going somewhere here. I want to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's normally one of the first questions you ask when you go and see the club and the manager is what are your ideas? Certainly as a slightly arrogant striker, you want to know who is going to supply you, you know, and whether you're looking to bring in other players or is it going to be the players that are currently there. I mean, there are so many other facets that you think about when you're making a move, but as a striker, certainly, I think it is more of a draw to any player if you're seeing an Mbeumo being signed and a Cunha and those creative players, and the club are looking to improve massively as well with that.
Do Manchester United still have that pull?
I think they do, of course, yeah, because of the history of the club. And also, you don't know whether any of these players have grown up and when they've watched English football, Manchester United have been their side. And ultimately, they can still pay the big money. And, you know, I'm not ashamed to say it, that you think of those things. If you've got two clubs looking at you and one of those is offering you a lot more money, an extra year, maybe guaranteeing you that you're going to start games. Those things are important to a player still.
Should be said here, United have made initial contacts via intermediaries over Viktor Gyökeres. So there hasn't been any club-to-club contact as far as we're aware at this stage. And a lot of people are saying, how can they afford Cunha, who's already at the club, Mbeumo, who is going to cost the thick end of £60 million as well, and Viktor Gyökeres, who's going to cost over £60 million as well. Well, I don't think Manchester United, despite all their financial and much publicised financial issues, are going into a transfer window with £0 to spend. They will have a certain budget, which we understand to be covered by Cunha and Mbeumo, and then maybe they will have to make sales to be able to fund a deal for someone like Gyokeres. But if you look at the players that they're signing in Cunha and Mbeumo, is that almost a message as well to the current players who are there, who could have played in the number 10 positions? Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, thanks, but we're going to listen to offers for you. And I'm sure United are expecting offers for these players to be able to fund the rest of their window.
Carve, what are the optics on this? A lot of people scenes at United have lost their jobs, and yet they're going in for these players. What does it look like to you, that?
It's a very good question. I think the thing, though, is that with football clubs, especially clubs as big as Manchester United, they need to sign players. It's part of their business model. They've got to invest in the transfer market. It's what they do. They need players to put on the pitch to win things. So if I was somebody who worked at Manchester United and I'd been made redundant after I'd worked there for decades and decades and decades, yes, I would have mixed feelings this summer when I see that they are spending millions and millions of pounds on new players. But that is the way the modern football business works. I think Ineos have gone into Manchester United and brought in management consultants, and they've been told that, look, these are the cuts you can make going forward. The club needs to be much more efficient, and to do that, we have to make these people redundant. You know, it's really sad what's happening at Manchester United and what's been happening there for a long time. But Ineos feel they have a plan to make things better. It's going to take time. It's not going to take just one window, but they believe that they're on the right track. And if you're a United fan, I suppose you've got no option but to put your faith in them.
Dean, how long has Amorim got, do you think, to turn things around?
I think a lot does depend on the recruitment, the ins and outs, because it's clear that he's trying to fight against certain players being at the club and wanting to change that playing squad to suit his style. And he's been so clear about that. He's even said in interviews that the ownership knew that this was the way I wanted to play and I am not going to deviate from that. Well, if the ownership believe in him, then they try and give him the players that will suit that system. Then if we all see that and we see the players that have come in that he can use in that system, then, you know, after 3 or 4 months, if you're seeing nothing at all when you've spent that money and helped the manager, then of course the pressure's going to be on because of the expectation of the football club. And he'll know that, though.